Okay, so back in 2005, Robert Plant was giving an interview to Rolling Stone, and he talked about a band that he really wished he could join. And furthermore, he said he would like to join this band as a bass player. Well, the band that he was talking about was the Black Keys. And at the time, they were just starting to make some headway into the public eye, and they were starting to gain some fame and notoriety. And Plant said about them, quote, "I'm very happy listening to the Black Keys. They're Akron's most feted sons, and they owe a lot to Skip James, as do I. So I listen to a lot of desert stuff, some very old blues like Lemon Jefferson and the Black Keys." He went on to say that he wished he could join the band, turning them into a trio by being their bass player. Quote, "I'd love to play bass with them for a bit. In truth, I was an occasional bass player. It says so on Zeppelin 1, next to my name. Vocals, harmonica, and occasional bass. Very occasionally. Once, I think, since 1968. End quote. So, amid his joking around there, you can see that he's complimenting the Black Keys. And I think that this is extremely relevant given the fact that they have been in the news lately for their failed tour attempt, the fact that they had to cancel their arena tour. And a lot of people are using this as an example of why rock music is no longer in demand the way that it used to be, and that these bands should not try to book stadiums. And the same situation occurred with Jennifer Lopez, and there's sort of a shadiness around the canceling of Heart's European tour, although they said it was being done because Ann Wilson was having a minor medical procedure. It seems odd to cancel an entire European tour for that reason. There's also been a lot of brouhaha about ticket prices, and while some bands are selling out huge arenas, other bands are struggling to fill clubs. So there was an article that came out a couple days ago talking about how the Black Keys have split with their management over the debacle that took place on their tour. And their former manager, believe it or not, was Irving Azoff. And so they have decided to move away from Irving Azoff and sign with Q Prime. And I think this tells us a couple of really important things. One is that the band is struggling to find management that will understand the kind of audience they have and the kind of music that they play and help them bring their music to the people who want it. What the management is looking for is a way to cash in as big as possible. This is why they booked them into arenas in the first place. You've got acts out there like Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Drake, and old acts like Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen, the Rolling Stones, that are just raking in money all across the world by playing big stadiums and arenas. So then you've got management companies booking bands like the Black Keys into these same venues that they can't possibly hope to fill. In a recent video that I did, I talked about how Cyndi Lauper is on the verge of doing the exact same mistake. She has booked herself into arenas all across North America, including Madison Square Garden. Ostensibly, she's going to be riding a wave of popularity because of the movie that came out, a biopic. But I don't think she's going to be able to fill those arenas, and I don't think that it's going to bode well for her any more than it did to the Black Keys. Now, let's get to a final point mentioned in this article on the Black Keys changing management. And in here they talk about one reason that ticket prices are so expensive is because of Ticketmaster and Live Nation. And at this point, Justice Department has filed an antitrust lawsuit against these companies. So as that works itself out, there's liable to be a huge change in the pricing indexes as management realizes demand has dropped. And as the Justice Department squeezes them a little tighter, there will be a corresponding drop in ticket prices. And it should be easier and more affordable to get out and see some of these acts. But at the same time, I'm not convinced that it is just the matter of ticket prices. that is causing the slump in sales for acts like the Black Keys or potentially Cyndi Lauper or bands like Heart. I think that there's simply less of a demand than there used to be. And I think that the greed on the behalf of the big management companies that is driving them to book these huge arena tours is also the same greed that's driving them to pay so much money for back catalogs of bands that they think are going to be extremely valuable and lucrative for decades to come. And I don't think that the audience is there for the music. So I think that in both cases they could be making a mistake, but we'll just have to hold on and see what takes place. It'll be very interesting to see what develops with the antitrust suit. It will also be very interesting to see what develops in the next couple of years regarding classic bands touring on a huge scale and playing large stadiums. I think that so long as there are examples of successful bands doing it, all of the other bands are going to continue to try to do it. But I think it's going to be increasingly more and more difficult for anyone to pull it off. And as I've been saying in most of my videos, I think one of the key elements these days is fan outreach and fan interaction, which is completely different than how it used to be. So acts these days that have a very strong social media presence and are actively engaged with their audience have a much better chance of selling out big venues than acts that simply rely on traditional PR and advertising and their brand name to generate excitement. I think in the old days it was a lot easier to get a big tour rolling just simply based off of a band's name recognition and status. But these days you have to keep your presence top of mind among the audience on almost a daily basis in order to drive that kind of excitement. Anyway, this is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Also, check out the join button that's available for you now. If you click that button, you'll gain access to members-only badges, members-only polls, and members-only videos, along with other cool perks. You can also support the channel by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee link, going to the Buy Me a Coffee site, and leaving a donation. Every bit helps this channel stay strong. Thanks a lot.